Well, there was a time when, if the skies opened up with rain, much of Oklahoma was vulnerable to flooding. Today, that threat has been greatly diminished thanks to upstream flood control dams. Often referred to as silent sentinels, more than 2,100 of these small dams are now scattered around the state, protecting both life and property.
To the untrained eye, it looks much like a farm pond, but on closer inspection, this low-water dam comes with its own plaque. What you're looking at is the nation's first upstream flood control project, funded by federal stimulus dollars.
Oklahoma has over 2,000 of these. In the last year, with the stimulus funds, another $21.5 million came to Oklahoma for the various watershed projects around the state.
Dave White is the chief of USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service, the federal agency that, since the days of the Dust Bowl, has been charged with protecting natural resources across the nation.
It's much more than just watersheds. It's land conservation, water quality, wildlife habitat, broad spectrum conservation planning with landowners here. And last year in Oklahoma, over $100 million of financial and technical assistance came to Oklahoma through the NRCS programs. And while $100 million is a significant sum in and of itself, a recent study by Oklahoma State said for every dollar spent on conservation can magnify up to 2.5 times as it goes through the economy. So it has a huge economic benefit for the state as well.
Improvements that could well last through the generations. In visiting with a landowner here, he says he believes that his son, who now lives in Houston, may someday return to this land. The same land that his father, when he moved here as a 6-year-old boy, found silt about fence post high.
We've owned this property since 1938. My grandfather bought it back in '38.
Garold Henson owns the land where this low water dam sits and says he's no stranger to flooding.
Well, this particular farm is surrounded on one side with Turkey Creek and on the other side with a dry creek. And when we get heavy rains, the creeks flood, wash the bridges out, and pretty much isolates our farm. And just with the red clay makes it almost impossible for us to deal with. So this is a great way to control this water that comes through in these big rains that we have.
Which is the same function of similar dams scattered all across the state, slowing runoff and turning gully washers into more manageable streams. Ronald Hilliard is Oklahoma's state conservationist.
They've been referred to as the silent sentinels because they are off up in the woods. Most people do not know that they're there until they have a flood, and then they see that there's just a small trickle of water. Before they had the dams put in, there'd be a lot of water going through, washing out bridges and roads and making places that are impassable, and sometimes washing out people's homes.
Which is why both state and federal officials came together in the small town of Drummond to celebrate a $500,000 investment that will protect 6 county roads and bridges, as well as more than 500 acres of land.
A lot of wildlife around here now. This can benefit the wildlife. It can't help but help the farm, because retaining the water on site is going to help groundwater, and that can't be a bad thing for us as well.
America produces a lot of the food for the world, and right now the United Nations is projecting that we're going to see 2.3 billion more people in the next 4 decades, and that by the year 2050, just 4 decades from now, at a minimum, we're going to have a 70% increase in food production in the United States of America.
And how we do that will in part be made possible by little dams like this, protecting the land for generations to come. Now, if you'd like to see more on the economic impact as well as the personal toll flooding can have on an Oklahoma community, just head to our website at okhorizon.com and click on Value Added.